Lake Fork. You want to know what I used on Lake Fork? Well, here it is. This is the Elite Tools from the final event of 2020 for the Bassmaster Elite Series. We had the Toyota Texas Fest down there on Lake Fork. 2020 has not been kind to my fishing in the majority of the season. So I had no shot at making the Classic unless I won that tournament. Lo and behold, I did not get on the winning fish, but I had an okay tournament. Ended up in 36th place. The first 2 days was pretty good. Third day was really tough, but luckily I had enough weight. I stayed up there. I stayed in 36th place. I got to fish 3 days. But I mean, you see all these casting rods behind me. I fished the majority of those rods either during practice or during the tournament. I was trying a whole bunch of different stuff, but it boiled down to 2 rods with 2 techniques for me in this tournament, the way I caught all of my fish. My morning deal, I had a morning deal that was working the first 15 to 20 minutes of takeoff. I had to book it to where I was fishing, and it seemed like as soon as the sun hit the area that I was fishing in this one morning deal, it was kind of like an old pond dam looking thing. That was, I'd caught fish there in the past, and I could catch 2 or 3 fish there. I caught 2 keepers there the first day, 3 keepers there. I'm talking like within 10 minutes, like bam, bam. And then as soon as the sun hit it, it was done. But I'd caught a couple in practice on a Spro Little John XL, but for some reason I got there the first day of the tournament, made 6 or 8 casts with it, nothing. So I picked up a jerkbait, and I wanted a jerkbait that had some flash to it. So this is a mega bass. You know, I mean, I fish the Spro McStick most of the time, but this was a mega bass because it had that those chrome sides on it. I wanted something real realistic because they were keying on the smaller bait fish. Had the number 6 Gamakatsu treble hooks on there. Those are a big key. And then the line that I was using was Sunline Sniper 12 pound. That's what this is right here. I was using that Sniper 12 pound. That's what I use like 90% of the time that I'm throwing a jerkbait. Had that on a Cashin square bill rod. It's a 7-foot. It's a medium action rod, kind of a medium heavy, but it's got a good parabolic action, really good for a jerkbait, especially when you're talking about catching bigger fish on a jerkbait. Really like that. Had Daiwa Tatula 100 6-3-1 reel. That was my setup on the jerkbait. Like I said, I caught 2 keepers right away the first day, 3 keepers, including a 411 on the second day. The third day, I was in the second flight, which means we had to be held 20 minutes before we got to take off. And by the time I got to that spot, the sun was already beating on it, and it was done. So that was one of the reasons the third day was a little tougher for me. But outside of that, my other deal, the way I caught the majority of my weight was on the old punch rod. That's right, the D-Bomb was back in town one more time, man. That thing has been a go-to for me in the last few events where I've had some decent tournaments, and I think that's going to be a theme that I'm just going to keep that D-Bomb on the deck, keep it handy, keep it in my hand, and hopefully we'll have a much better year next year. But the setup for that was I was actually punching. I wasn't flipping and pitching it as much. I was actually punching it, fishing some matted up hyacinths, matted up gator grass. It's kind of a little bit of willow grass mixed in there, but it was more gator grass. And that's the stuff that grows up and grows out and gets kind of bound up like that. That's why I guess they call it gator grass. I don't know what the technical name for it is, but bass definitely get up under it as long as there's enough water. I mean, as long as there's more than 2 feet of water or so under that type of grass, those bass will get up under there. And there's only one way to get to it, and that's punching a big weight. In that tournament, I was using an 1.5 ounce tungsten weight with a Gamakatsu heavy cover worm hook, 4/0. That's what I was using. Most of the fish that I caught was on the regular D-Bomb in Bruiser. And then when the sun got out, things got real calm. I switched over to Copper Chopper. It's one I've been fishing a lot this fall. I caught a couple on that, but most of them came on the Bruiser. The water was relatively clear. You could probably see about 2 feet, 2 to 2.5 feet in the areas that I was punching that grass. And then of course had a little bobber stop right on the front of that big weight so that it'll get down through that grass. And I had that on 50-pound Sunline X Plasma. That is the money go-to line. That stuff just slides right down into that grass, whether it's hyacinths or that gator grass, slides down in there, and then you can seesaw that bait up and down, and the line is so smooth it doesn't make a lot of noise. It doesn't go zit, 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 zit on that grass. I think that's a big deal. I mean, you can slide it up and down, and you can't even really feel that it's braid. So that's good for, I think getting a lot of those slow bites, because in that tournament especially, about half of my bites came when the bait shot through. The other half came after like 3 or 4, seesaws, I call it, on the, going through that mat. Just kind of had to keep milking it in those mats, and those fish would finally come over there and bite it. They were acting really, really funny. But I had that on my 7-Eleven Cashin punch rod. That is money. It's got that counterbalance weight in it. So when you're holding that rod right here above the reel, it's just it keeps that rod tip up for you. It's real easy to fish this rod all day long. And then I had a Daiwa. This is not a Tatula. It's a Tatula SV 8-to-1, really fast gear ratio reel. I think that is key, because when you're punching those mats, you want to get that bait in there, and then when you're taking it out, you don't want to let that weight hit the water or hit the mat if you can help it. Because if you're pulling that weight out, I feel like when that weight hits the water, sploosh, I mean, it's a heavy weight, that spooks all those fish in that little immediate area. So then you're gonna have to kind of move on down. But if you can get that weight out of there, reel it really fast, keep that weight off the bottom of the earth, off the top of the grass or out of the water, just keep it in the air, then you can pitch it back in the next little section, and those fish are not going to be spooked. That's a big deal. So that 8-to-1 gear ratio reel makes a big difference to me when I'm punching. And that was kind of my setup for Lake Fork. Ended up the year in 69th in Angler of the Year. Absolutely terrible as far as that's concerned, but we're gonna go ahead and get regrouped. We're gonna go ahead and get all of these rods dialed in. I'm probably gonna be phasing in some more of those new Icon Cashin rods. I've already put my line order in to get all my Sunline for next year. All my components that I used during the course of the season, they absolutely 100% stood behind me and did everything I ever asked them to do, from the Cashin rods, Sunline, Spro, Gamakatsu, from the bait side, and especially the missile stuff. That didn't fail me. That was not the issue. I never got beat because of my equipment. I never had bad finishes because of my equipment, especially on the tackle end. So I'm really looking forward to continuing another year, basically with the same combination of rods, reels, line. I know that stuff's gonna come through for me for next year. So when I bring you more Elite Tool videos for next year, we're gonna be hearing a lot of the same names and same brands, but just in different combinations, and hopefully with much, much more success. So I'm looking forward to doing that. And I appreciate everybody watching these Elite Tool videos. And if you have any questions or comments, be sure to hit them up down there below. Thanks for watching.